Our pace of living leaves us little time for leisure. Our program will give you a chance to experience the fascinating world of traveling, extreme adventures, hunting and fishing. Each week we will take you to the most beautiful places of Kazakhstan.
We need to get together. Yes, let's form a column. Weekend tour trips are trips to the countryside. One day is hardly ever enough for a good trip if you want to enjoy it to the full. So we decide to go on for a 2-day trip for 2 nights. This time in the carrier of our car we have quadrocycles and motorcycles. We have planned to spend the 2 nights in the national park hotels, leaving the motorized transport at the entrance. We want to continue the trip with the local huntsmen in their car. Almaty is a city with a unique geographical location. In the summer, tourists and mountaineers are attracted by snowcaps of the surrounding mountains. At the foot of the mountains, paragliders start exercising. Mountain whitewater rivers attract kayakers, and local steppes and plains are a good place for riding quadrocycles and motorcycles. Good morning, we're starting our journey. We all have quadrocycles with different capacities. All of them were not designed for rapid turns and drifts. This means of transport may be easily turned over, but is good as an off-road vehicle, and it is light as well. Some of us are keen on riding quadrocycles along the sandy banks of Lake Kapchigai, but the majority prefers off-road sites. Now we are 200 kilometers away from the city, riding across the steppe and leaving clouds of dust behind us. Summer is a wonderful time for plenty of leisure activities, and one doesn't have to fly somewhere on a plane or go by boat. Almaty residents are lucky people in this respect. To enjoy wonderful landscapes, they just need to go outside town. First we go to the east along the mountain ridge, which then, after the Talgar ridge, gradually goes steep. This road leads to central Tian Shan, where Kazakhstan borders China and where there are 2 7,000-meter peaks, the Pobeda Peak and Khan-Tengry. Khan-Tengry is the highest mountain peak in Kazakhstan, but it's difficult to reach on a quadrocycle. We would need a helicopter to go there, so we decide to ride across the steppe instead. Roads across the steppe form interesting ornaments. This is where Kazakh shepherds have been grazing their herds of sheep for ages. The summer here comes quickly and it gets hot here earlier than in other regions. So, by the middle of the calendar summer, the grass is burned under the sun, therefore shepherds have to move their herds to the mountain pastures or zhailao. The grass remains green until the autumn here. The water in rivers is cold and clear as it originates from glaciers. The landscapes here are the feast for the eyes, because everything is lush green. The flowers in the alpine meadows smell honey. You will be lucky if you find a spring to quench your thirst, standing on your knees and enjoying pure fresh water that comes from the underground spring. You can have a bath in the cold water to get cool on a hot day in order to carry on your journey.
Техника была для меня новой на этот раз. На мотоцикле я проехал, на котором не сидел лет 20. И также катался на машинках, называемые УТВ.
This time I was not familiar with machinery. I rode a motorcycle I hadn't ridden for about 20 years. I remember these motorbikes were easy to ride. I like this one. The wheel path makes it easy for the rider to absorb all uneven surfaces. It's great, it has a powerful engine, it has a wide range of maneuvers, so you don't have to worry about turning over while riding it. It's very safe and reliable. We're trying to bring our Yamaha Grizzly to life. We need to fix it as it tends to recline either to the left or to the right while riding it. As soon as we sort out this problem, we will head for the waterfall. This is a new place for me.
И поедем к водопаду. Это тоже новое место для меня здесь.
The road is not always smooth. The motorbike rider may be easily held up by dusty and sandy traps. One may also get into a marsh. The first quadrocycle gets stuck in the mud. It's no trouble to get it out with the help from the whole team, but for the rider it's a good chance to see what the machinery is capable of. This tour is also meant to be a test drive for quadrocycles brought from neighboring China.
Удивительный аппарат. Задумался о том, что даже купить вот, после именно этой поездки, потому что настолько,
I like it. I'm even thinking of buying it. Let's see how it will get through the test. It seems to be as good as Japanese machinery. I'm impressed. It overcomes dumps well. It has good speed. But the most important thing is its capability to go off-road. It's a pleasure to ride it. I enjoy using it. I should say that I'm slightly obsessed with machinery like this. I've made several trips here, and every time I'm here, I enjoy looking at the landscape here. I always notice something new in the landscape features. We're trying to be model tourists and go across the slopes of the Singing Barhan on foot. It's unique in that it was formed as a result of the sand that was blown from the dry riverbeds of the Ili. The winds that circulate between the ridges of Jungari and Alatau, the Big and Small Kalkans, Baguti and Sugati mountains are quite strong. When the wind meets the mountain ridge, the wind drops and the sand particles form a new layer. For thousands of years, this Barhan, which is 3 kilometers long and 150 meters high, hasn't moved despite strong winds. From time to time, there may be sand slides. They resemble snow avalanches. When it's hot and dry, sand grains rub rapidly against the surrounding sand, and some sounds are emitted that resemble the sounds of the organ. Sometimes it may sound like a plane getting off. The singing sands have always mesmerized people's imagination. According to some legends and fairy tales, the singing sand indicates the presence of desert spirits, mythical animals and underground rivers.
Дул сильный ветер. Тоже было очень.
A strong wind was blowing. The landscape was beautiful. It seems that the Barhan is exposed to all winds and moves in circles here. When wind blows, you may get the feeling that it is raining with sand grains. When this happens, it's beautiful to watch. Nothing compares to the feeling of flying that you may get when riding a quadricycle and the wind is blowing in your face. You may get the feeling that the wind will blow you off the saddle, but you are sitting there firmly, controlling your journey and enjoying the speed. The surrounding landscape can make anyone find out more about it. These huge red stones are a reminder of volcanic eruptions in the distant past. The rocks of the plain were shaped by Mother Nature, so that they resemble sculptures. The niches that were formed as a result of natural activity can provide shade to visitors on a hot day. Volcanic lava that was erupted millions of years is now still, and its features look like gigantic lizards and dinosaurs. And this natural monument resembles the head of a huge snake.
Но самое главное это драйв. Именно за этим мы сюда и приезжаем, чтобы получить какое-то удовольствие от поездки, от красоты, от общения с людьми, с новыми.
In order to enjoy it, you need to have the feeling of drive and excitement. That's why we come here. We also want to socialize and meet new people and admire the landscape. I wanted to bring my son here, but this time I couldn't. Next time, I will definitely come with him. I want to use this machinery next time. I'm sure my son will love it. I'm fond of it. We will also bring a quadricycle and a motorcycle. Later on, we saw a small lake, which is called an oxbow lake. It is a marsh that some time ago was part of a river. Then we visited a famous spring in this area that is called Chokan-Valikhanov spring. It has the name of the famous Kazakhstani scientist, historian, traveler and educator whose works were published in the Russian Geographic Society periodics. We then had a rest in the shade of a rare poplar, Turanga. It grows in the riparian forests of Asia. The tour organizer did their best to show us as many landscape features as possible in the Almaty region in just 2 days. We saw the stones that, according to a legend, Genghis Khan servants used to cook meat for their master, and the well-known conqueror. At daytime it's boiling hot here, and all the creatures that inhabit this area hide under stones and in holes. But we had to go on our trip and cover more than a dozen of kilometers, so we got back to our quadricycles and motorcycles. A quadricycle is a motorized four-wheeled vehicle that looks more like a motorcycle. In 1970, one famous American car-making company created a three-wheeled hybrid that was a mixture of a car and a motorcycle. It was called an off-road motorcycle. It had a lot of advantages over an ordinary motorcycle. It was as practical as a car, and its properties allowed a wider range of maneuvers. It was robust with huge wheels and impressive grip that made it an effective means of off-road transportation. It was capable of going across places where there are holes and bumps, marshes and shallow rivers, as well as sandy and stony deserts. It became popular on the beaches of California. Soon, all world-leading car manufacturers started producing its analogues, and today these vehicles are known as quadricycles and are a favorite possession of extreme sport lovers and travelers. And we are not an exception. A quadricycle has similar features as a car and belongs to the class of cars. In fact, in the family of motorized vehicles, it could be compared to a younger brother of the car. And probably it could be described as a nephew to the motorcycle if we talked in these terms. Depending on preferences, you can buy either a tourist or a sports quadricycle. Both of them have different power characteristics. Experienced riders say that the vehicles are very powerful and one has to follow some safety rules while riding it. Tourist and sports quadricycles have a four-wheel drive, and this means it is not designed for rapid turns and moves, although their range of maneuvers is wide. If you are to overcome an obstacle you didn't expect, you'd better walk around it, pulling or pushing the quadricycle along the riverbank while walking in the water. Like ecotourists traveling by water. Under its seat there is an air filter that allows the vehicle to run over your hand with no injuries, where the water level doesn't exceed the level of the seat. It is of utmost importance that you wear a headgear and goggles on your elbows and knees. We do not recommend that you copy the tricks you see now. They are performed by an experienced stuntman.
Поездка супер. Техника показала себя хорошо.
The trip was successful and the equipment proved reliable. It had its acid test during this trip. It went through all the jumps and falls, and I'm pleased. We reached Aktau Mountains, but had the feeling we were surrounded by a landscape on the moon. What a fantastic view! Millions of years ago, this used to be the bed of the Tethys Ocean. The sediment rocks have been formed in such a way that on the surface of their former ocean bed, away from oceans and seas, limestone rocks of different colors rise. They are rich in quartz, jaspers and carnelians. They are all covered with crevices and cracks, which formed a number of cavities and rocky galleries. When looking up, the mountains resemble a huge cake with multiple layers. The labyrinths have been washed and shaped by rain and winds, where there are soft rocks. That's why they have interesting curves. In some places, they are very difficult to go through. In other places, they are wide enough for a group of people. The journey was amazing. In less than 3 days, we saw a lot of wild landscapes, traveled from the mountains to the desert zone, tested new vehicles, enjoyed riding quadricycles and motorbikes to the full away from the big city with its noise and traffic lights. We're all tired, but full of emotions, and even a rescue team member that accompanies us is in the mood for a joke, in spite of his tiredness. We now go back to our daily chores and duties. During this trip, we recharged our batteries with positive emotions and have new impressions, which will be enough for the whole working week. And next weekend we will go for a new journey. We just need to decide on the next destination. And off we go!